Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's kick off today's video with a story about our OP's clever navigation through the bureaucratic maze of the UK's Department for Work and Pensions, DWP. Here we go. Force fake rules on me? Okay, I'll follow everything that's legit. Background. My job history is a little varied. Offices, bars, childcare. I've done a bit of everything over the years. A couple of years ago, I went through a rough patch and ended up having to claim JSA, Job Seekers Allowance, from the DWP. The building itself is one of the most depressing places possible. Everything seems just a little off. No clocks on the wall, Army recruiters trying to get anyone to sign up, and the DWP, Department for Work and Pension staff, trying to get you to just give up and do everything they tell you. All in all, it's just a horrible place. The annoyance. My first appointment went about as well as you can expect. I've got a child, so needed to look just in school hours. The work coach spun that into I needed to search 7 days a week for 8 hours a day for work during those same hours with another hour of traveling each way. I argued, but the prospect of not getting any financial help at all made me sign. I was also told that there was a mandatory group session every day. Failure to attend would be grounds to stop everything. This is how it goes normally. You do what you're told, or they take the tiny bit of help you'll eventually get. Compliances. The first couple of days I attended the group, literally spending the last of my cash to get there in time after dropping my child to school, but I also took the time to look up the DWP rules on what I'd been forced onto. It turned out that any activity the DWP requires beyond the fortnightly signing on means they have to pay for your travel. Also, mandatory group activities were only for those who had tried for a few months to get work. I went to my parents and printed out enough copies of this rule for everyone at the mandatory group and for every other group that day. After 3 days, we got monthly bus passes. After just over a week, they told me the group session was no longer mandatory for me, or about a dozen others. They never asked for the bus passes back either. A small win, but free travel for a month is huge when you have no income. The second stage of my compliance was directed at the work coach for the fake rules she claimed were just how it is. I had another week until my second sign-on, and I used that time to research, plan, and practice my employable skills. It was a very busy week. While looking for the group activity stuff, I found something better, the Decision Maker's Guide. It's the rule book for the DWP with requirements for benefits, claimants, and their own staff. It's one thing to think that things are wrong, it's another to be able to point to the rule and say why it's wrong. I listed everything in a master document and wrote down some of the most useful passages, such as evidence of job search includes uncorroborated written evidence or verbal evidence, DMG 21592. Determining whether the claimant was ASE in any week requires a comparison between what they in fact did to seek work that week and what the law requires them to do, DMG 21597. There were pages and pages of notes, and I wanted to include as much as I could, so I created a slideshow for my evidence. This fulfilled two criteria. It showed my evidence and also meant that I could practice my employable skills, also an important part of the job search. This wasn't just a slideshow of work, this was death by PowerPoint. Everything had a transition effect, the slides, each sentence, the headers and footers, all set to slow. My JSA appointment was better than I thought possible. The work coach had her manager rating her for my appointment. I took out the borrowed laptop and began. I let the slideshow start, and after about 2 minutes, the manager asked why I had written rules on some slides and my job search on others. Everything came out. The force's compliance to non-existent rules, we'd advance a slide, and then get to the next section of fake rules the work coach had forced. I never did get to the end of my slideshow. After 90 minutes, I was the one before lunch too, we were halfway, and the work coach was in serious trouble with her manager as I'd got evidence of everything that had happened so far. The manager forced a complete rewrite of my commitment to comply with the DWP rules. Hours were reduced to school times only, and I was reduced to the proper once-a-fortnight sign-on. I left them to it at that point. Because the DWP rules say that you can submit your evidence however you choose, I started working on finger puppets, childcare skills, for my next appointment. As much fun as that would have been, I found a job the next week, and the puppets have been in a box for the past couple of years. Sorry it sucks so much, but thank you for your imaginative storytelling. You could add that to your skills list. And our second story. I sort of accidentally worked at the library for 2 hours. Today I was feeling really glum at home, so I decided to go to the library and just sit around there so I could get out of the house. I went to the children's side of the library to find a window seat to sit at. Some of the shelves I walked past were a total mess. It kind of bothered me, and I volunteered here, so I sort of absent-mindedly went to do the stuff to tidy it up. Pick up all the books from the floor, push the books out so it's uniform and not as shaggy looking, etc. As I was doing this, the most adorable little chubby toddler walked behind me and tugged on my skirt and asked me if I could help him find a book. I said sure, and he told me to follow him. At one point, he told me I was too slow and pulled my hand forward. So cute. Anyway, I found his book when his mom comes back with an even younger kid and one of the library's recommended reading packets. She thanks me for helping and asks if I could help them find some of the other books on the list. They were nice, and I liked feeling helpful, so I took them around to look for them and told the kids how to find books using these shelf labels and stuff. Right near the last book, a librarian came up to us. The mom started telling the librarian how helpful I was and that I was really nice to her kids. I started blushing, but I was also getting a little confused. The librarian smiled and said that she was glad and that she needed me for something else. We said goodbye, then the librarian gave me some things to do. Looking back, this is 100% obvious, but I wasn't really sure if she thought I was a worker there. But I was also too shy to say anything, so I just went along with it. I started doing the stuff on the list, like cleaning discs and searching for books that were on hold. I honestly didn't mind because I had done this stuff before, and I was happy doing it. I would rather do this than go back and be lonely at home. Eventually, I ended up searching for books near the original librarian. I heard a voice on the intercom asking for a page to come help with donations. The librarian said I should go help. I don't know why, but I suddenly decided to finally say something, but I said, "Oh, I'm not a page." "Are you one of the volunteers?" No. Well, I used to be, but, wait, what are you doing here? Do you work here?" "No, sorry. It's just you gave me work and I didn't want to be rude." There was a pause, then she started chuckling. She said that she saw me helping and had seen me around before and thought I was a page. She apologized for giving me a bunch of worker bee boring tasks and said that I should go do whatever I came here to do instead of this. I went to finally sit down, but after reading Calvin and Hobbes for a bit, I realized I might as well just go read in the park or something. I guess being there so long made me kind of bored of the setting. This is great. You're a great person, OP. Just make sure that you learn to stand your ground. In some cases, you'll most definitely want to, so doing your best to learn how to do so is time worth investing. And our next story. Okay, it'll ship today. A friend of mine did this. When I was a tech at a calibration lab, we had a torque wrench arrive for calibration. Now, to do the job right, you must let the wrench sit in the lab until it's reached the same temperature as the lab and the calibration standards. It was winter and the wrench was cold, unheated shipping truck, warehouse, etc., so this wrench was put on the shelf to acclimate, which would take 24 to 48 hours. That afternoon, one of the salespeople told the torque tech that this wrench must ship today because it was a big customer and he wanted to make a good impression. The tech obviously said that it couldn't because it had to acclimate before being calibrated. The salesperson was the sort of irresistible force who thought that no one could or would ever stand in his way. He was also not supposed to be in the lab or in any way involved in production. He was also kind of an a-hole. So the tech again explained that the wrench could not be calibrated until at least the next day, otherwise the calibration would not be a good one, and we don't do it like that. That's when the salesperson exploded and flew his B flag high, repeated several times that it must ship today. After the 10-minute tirade had ended, the tech just told him, "It'll ship today." So the salesperson huffed back to the sales department, gratified that he's got his way again. As soon as he was gone, the tech processed the order as a return as is and put it on the shipping cart. The wrench did indeed ship that day without a calibration certificate. The customer was miffed. The subsequent investigation did not show the salesperson in a good light. He was officially reprimanded. Someone should explain to these salespeople the concept of under-promising and over-delivering. And our last story. I am totally allowed to park in your driveway and block you from driving. I live right next to a small forest that's filled with gravel paths meant to be used by people to walk, ride their bicycles, or even ski during the winter. The small parking lot next to the forest is usually overflowing with cars, especially on the weekends. People are forced to park on my street because there's nowhere else to park. This has caused problems where the cars parked are barely allowing clearance for other cars to drive past, slowing down traffic. People whose driveways are without a gate are putting up signs asking others not to park in front of their house, blocking their way. Most people respect it, but of course everyone doesn't. In comes the Karen of the story. This was last Saturday. As always, the parking lot was filled and cars were lining up on the side of the street. I was getting ready to take my moped to the grocery store when I noticed a G-Class Mercedes stop in front of my house, directly in front of the driveway gate. I walk outside to see a middle-aged lady get out of the car, lock the doors, and walk off. Me. Excuse me, lady, you're blocking the driveway. Karen. So? You don't seem to be in a big hurry. Me. Actually, I was just setting out. Karen. Well, you can wait until I return, right? Me. I really don't think so. Can't you just move your car to somewhere else? The dirt road on the side of the forest is mostly empty. Karen. My car will get stuck in there. Me. You drive a G-Class. It was meant to go off-road. Besides, it isn't that rough of a road. Even most small hatchbacks can handle it. Karen. Oh my God, you kids are so disrespecting. I'll be going now. I have better things to do than to deal with you. Me. Maybe you want to deal with the police then. Karen. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm older than you. You shouldn't talk to me like that. Me. And what are you going to do about that? Call the cops? In this situation, they aren't going to do much. Oh, and my parents are away, so no help there. After that, she huffed and walked away. I dug out my phone and called the police to let them know that there's a lady with her SUV that refuses to get out of my driveway. The police arrived, looked at the G-Class, talked with me a bit, and agreed that if she won't move it herself, then they will. Just when the tow truck arrived, Karen shows up again. Karen. What's going on here? Police officer. Ma'am, your car's blocking a driveway. If you don't move it yourself, we'll have to fine you and move the vehicle ourselves. Karen. You really believe what this moron told you? He isn't even old enough to drive. Me. I own a four-wheeled moped. It looks like a small car, but it's still legally a moped. Police officer. Doesn't matter if he couldn't drive or wasn't planning to go anywhere. You're still parked illegally. Now move your car or you'll be fined. Honestly, I was surprised that she wasn't fined in the first place. Karen. Fine. But I will have you know I'm married to a rich man who has the power to ruin you if he so chooses. After that, she got in her car and drove off. The police stayed there for a while to make sure that nobody else was doing anything like that, and I was finally able to go to the store. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.